Welcome to Episode 48, Navigate Card Production and Personalization Security Requirements. The promise is a reliable view of production controls and their audit-ready artifacts so you can evaluate factories, bureaus, and mailing partners like an assessor. Your role on the Payment Card Industry Professional, PCIP, is not to run presses or encode chips. It is to recognize which controls must exist, what records prove they ran, and how gaps become fraud or data exposure. When you can turn any step in the production chain into a short list of evidence, who had access, what was moved, how it was reconciled, and where the proof lives, you read these environments with calm precision. Secure materials are currency. Blanks, holograms, foils, chip modules, and spoiled stock must be protected, counted, and reconciled at every handoff. Think vault-style discipline, daily opening and closing counts under dual control, batch issue forms, in-process counts at each station, and end-of-shift reconciliations that leave zero unexplained variance. Spoiled stock is logged, defaced, or shredded according to procedure, and witnessed with signatures that tie to the batch. Artifacts include vault cards, batch travelers, spoilage logs with quantities and reasons, destruction certificates with method and date, and periodic surprise audits. Assessors treat missing or ambiguous reconciliations as red flags because counterfeit risk lives in those gaps. Cryptographic handling raises the bar further. Dual control and split knowledge ensure no single person can create, load, or use keys that personalize chips or produce PIN mailers. Documented key ceremonies define roles, steps, tools, locations, and evidence captured at each point. You should see key component envelopes signed across seals, ceremony scripts with times and participants, key check values recorded against device identities, and tamper-evident storage for components not in use. Rotation schedules, revocation steps, and incident procedures round out the picture. On the exam, the stronger answer never stops at keys are loaded securely. It insists on dual control, split knowledge, and a paper trail that a reviewer can sample without folklore. Fraud prevention depends on duty segregation. Printing, encoding, quality assurance, and dispatch must remain distinct so no single operator can create usable counterfeit output. Practical signs include layout stations without encoding rights, encoding stations without print personalization authority, QA with read-only tools and reject power, and dispatch with count but no create capability. Access rights, workstation builds, and floor plans should reflect these separations. Evidence includes role matrices, workstation images or gold builds, entitlement reviews per station, and incident drills where QA halts a suspect batch and records the reason. The exam rewards designs that turn trustworthy people into trustworthy process with checks that survive turnover. Data ingress is the personalization lifeblood and must travel like a controlled substance. Personalization files arrive over encrypted channels, are validated against issuer schemas, and are stored only inside hardened access-controlled zones. Transport to the line uses encrypted containers with integrity checks, staging deletes residuals on a clock, and debug logs never echo sensitive fields. Expect to see file transfer logs with hashes, schema validation reports with rejection counts, storage path permissions, and purge job records with dates and volumes. When files depart, for test feedback or reruns, the same controls apply. For exam reasoning, encrypted in transit and at rest is necessary. Validated, reconciled, and purged with proof is what closes audit findings. Batches are the unit of truth. Each batch carries an identifier that appears on travelers, station logs, QA results, packaging labels, and dispatch manifests. Reconciliation means counts match at every step. Inputs equal outputs plus rejects and work in process. Returns and reprints loop back under control with fresh travelers and a reason code. A solid evidence set includes batch travelers with signatures, reject logs specifying defect category, reprint authorizations, and a master reconciliation sheet signed by a supervisor outside the immediate line. The assessor's habit is to pick one batch and follow it from file receipt to courier handoff. Your job is to make that trivial. Mailing and courier stages extend the chain of custody beyond the factory door. Couriers and letter shops must be vetted, contractually bound to security clauses, and subject to sampling and on-site reviews. Tamper-evident packaging protects the mailer or parcel. Handoffs are signed with timestamps and package counts. Exceptions, missorts, returns, damages trigger investigation and documentation. Evidence includes vendor due diligence files, route manifests, seal or bag IDs, handoff logs, return processing records, and periodic test mailings with trackable seeds. On the exam, choose options that keep custody visible and verifiable all the way to the first customer touch, not only up to the factory dock. Anomalies should meet speed and structure. Whether it is a count mismatch, a torn mailbag seal, a camera blackout, or an encoding error spike, the response is the same. Stop, segregate, investigate, document, and get an independent approval to resume. The record should show who raised the flag, the scope bounded, the interviews or footage reviewed, the cause, the corrective action, and the sign-off. Tie corrective actions back to training, tooling, or process so the same crack does not reopen. The exam favors programs that treat anomalies as control tests that generate artifacts, not as private fixes that leave no footprint. Retention is how you prove what you claim. Keep batch logs, traveler packets, exception tickets, CCTV polls relevant to incidents, access control lists and changes, destruction certificates, courier acknowledgments, and certification letters long enough to satisfy issuer, regulator, and program rules. Store indexes so retrieval is fast, and protect evidence stores with write-once or append-only properties where feasible. A reviewer will ask for 3 unrelated samples. Your retrieval time is part of the control strength. Retention without a catalog becomes a maze. Retention with an index becomes assurance. Third parties often carry much of this load, so independent certifications matter. Review and archive current listings for card manufacturers, personalization bureaus, and mailers. Read scoping notes to ensure the services you use are inside their validated boundaries. And align contracts to required control zones, reconciliations, cryptography, custody, audits, and response times. Evidence includes certificates with effective and expiry dates, gap analyses that map certificate scope to your use case, and contract exhibits that bake the controls into obligations. For the exam, the trusted pattern is certificate plus contract plus sampling, not certificate alone. Everything you collect must tie back to Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard (PCI DSS) scope and to assurances you give customers. Manufacturing and personalization controls support objectives around physical protection, media handling, and cryptographic key management. Mailing controls support secure distribution and customer privacy. Anomaly and retention controls support incident response and evidence sufficiency. In a report, cite the specific artifacts, batch traveler IDs, destruction cert numbers, key ceremony logs, courier seal ranges, and place them where an assessor will actually look. The habit to build is translating production truth into PCI language without turning it into fiction. Step back, and a simple structure emerges. Physical zones keep rare materials rare. Reconciliations make numbers honest. Dual control and split knowledge keep keys safe. Segregation of duties keeps temptation small. Encrypted, validated data flows keep personalization clean. Batch tracking makes the story linear. Custody through mailing keeps the story intact. Anomalies and retention keep the story provable. Certifications and contracts keep partners aligned. And mapping to PCI DSS keeps the story examinable. That is how production becomes both secure and legible to outsiders. Close with one practical move that proves the mindset. Select one production control, say spoiled stock destruction or courier handoff, and refresh its full evidence trail today. Pull the latest 3 events, verify the documents are complete, dates, signatures, counts, reasons, confirm the records link to batch IDs and surveillance or seal details where appropriate, and file a short note on any gaps with owners and due dates. Then update the evidence register with the sample results. That small act shows how an assessor thinks. Pick a control, sample it, reconcile story to state, and leave the trail cleaner than you found it. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.